My brother-in-law shattered my cheekbone because I wouldn't wire him $200,000. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't fight back. I just lay there, bleeding, shoulder out of socket, my blood seeping into the rug I bought with my first promotion bonus. And as I watched him and my sister walk out of my apartment like nothing had happened, I knew one thing for sure. They had no idea who they were dealing with.
I'm Alexis Moore. I'm 38. I'm the chief financial officer of a fintech startup based in Los Angeles. I built my life from scratch. No safety net, no handouts, just discipline, persistence, and one ruthless Excel spreadsheet at a time. I'm calm under pressure. I don't raise my voice. I calculate. I measure. I track outcomes. I never thought I'd need those skills to survive my own family. But here we are. Before I tell you how I dismantled the life they tried to build on my back, piece by piece, hit that subscribe button. Comment if you've ever had to choose between your peace of mind and someone else's entitlement. This story is for every person who's ever been punished for saying no. Now, let's go back to the beginning, back to before the blood, before the betrayal, when I still thought my sister loved me. Natalie and I grew up in a middle-class suburb in Michigan. She's 4 years older. Always had this magnetic charm, a laugh that made people turn their heads. I was the quieter one, bookish, numbers-focused, always planning. We were different, but close. She protected me in school, brushed hair out of my face when I cried, brought me soup when I had the flu. She was the reason I made it through high school without getting eaten alive. But adulthood changes people, especially when money enters the room. While I climbed my way through college with scholarships and internships, Natalie was busy reinventing herself every 6 months. She changed majors twice, dropped out of a graduate program, then resurfaced 2 years later as a lifestyle coach/wellness blogger. That's when she met Grant. Grant Walsh, tall, charismatic, always talking about the next big thing. He was the kind of guy who wore designer sneakers with overpriced blazers and called everyone boss in meetings. He built a following online by selling crypto strategies to college students and promising passive income to stressed-out moms. He married my sister within 6 months of meeting her. I flew back for the wedding, smiled through the whole thing, even though something about him made the back of my neck itch. He was too polished, too smooth. Still, I wanted to trust him for Natalie's sake. After the wedding, I kept my distance. They moved to Los Angeles, just like I had a few years earlier, and started building their influencer life. Brunch photos, minimalist furniture, sponsored content about herbal detox gummies, and manifestation journals. We had Sunday dinners together every couple of weeks. At first, it felt like family, but then the question started. How much do you actually make in that CFO role? Are you investing or just saving? Ever think about leveraging your equity for something bigger? I kept my answers polite and vague, but I could feel it. Grant was probing, mapping out my finances like a vulture circling. Then came the night that changed everything. Natalie invited me over for dinner, just the 3 of us. "We have amazing news," she said, voice bubbling like champagne. "You have to be the first to hear." I brought wine. They made pasta from scratch. The lights were dimmed, music low. It felt staged. Grant pulled out his phone, showed me a slideshow of a stunning smart home in a gated community just outside Beverly Hills. White marble counters, infinity pool, custom walk-in closets. "This is our dream home," Natalie said, eyes shining. "We put in an offer," Grant added, "and it was accepted." I blinked. That house had to be worth at least $1.2 million. I smiled because that's what polite people do. "That's amazing," I said carefully. "Are you both feeling ready for that kind of jump?" That's when Grant leaned in. "We just need a little help." Natalie reached for my hand across the table. "You're the most financially stable person we know," she said softly. "The bank just needs temporary liquidity proof.
If you could wire over $200,000 for the next 60 days, it would secure the loan. Then we pay you back. Easy. I froze. 200,000. It was my emergency fund, my future home down payment, my security blanket. I'll need to think about it, I said. Grant's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course, he said. But the bank deadline's Friday. We wouldn't want to lose the house because of hesitation. I nodded and went home, my stomach tight. That night, I didn't sleep. I pulled up spreadsheets, ran scenarios, called my financial advisor the next morning. She didn't mince words. Do not do this, she said. This is not a loan. This is financial exposure without a contract. And with Grant's record. What record? I asked. She hesitated. I'll run a deeper check. And that's when everything started unraveling. Not just the math, not just the risk. The relationship, the trust, the entire idea of family. But I wasn't ready to walk away yet. I still believed I could reason with my sister. I still believed there was a way out that didn't involve war. I didn't know it yet, but that war had already started. And they had fired the first shot. I didn't say no immediately. That's something people never understand when they hear this story. They think I shut the door without listening, that I was cold, calculated, heartless. But the truth is, I wanted to help. I really did. Natalie and I weren't just sisters. We were best friends growing up. There's a photo of us taped to the inside of my childhood jewelry box. She's 10. I'm 6. We're sitting in the grass, covered in glitter, making bracelets out of safety pins and plastic beads. That memory used to mean something. So no, my first instinct wasn't to cut them off. My first instinct was to make it work. But instincts don't pay off loans. Logic does. After that dinner with Grant and Natalie, I spent an entire night reviewing everything. Their timeline, their jobs, Grant's claims about his crypto portfolio. I knew people in his world, finance bros, who jumped from trend to trend, always selling hope before it crashed. Natalie, meanwhile, worked part-time at a wellness boutique. She called it her energy reset space. It barely covered her car lease. I wasn't judging her choices, but they didn't match the kind of mortgage they were talking about. That house in Beverly Hills, easily $1.2 million. The taxes alone would crush someone with unstable income. The next morning, I met with Linda, my financial advisor. She's sharp, no nonsense, former forensic accountant. I trust her with everything. I need you to tell me if I'm missing something, I said, sliding the photos of the house across her desk. They want $200,000, wired to their escrow account, to show liquidity for 60 days. She didn't even blink. Absolutely not. What if we draw up a contract? Still no, she replied. You're not dealing with a business partner. You're dealing with family who's emotionally manipulating you. And based on what I've found, she spun her monitor around. Grant's credit report glowed red, maxed out credit cards, a 6-figure personal loan in collections, a defaulted mortgage from 5 years ago, long before he met Natalie. I stared at the screen, stunned. She doesn't know, I whispered. She might, Linda said, but that's not your responsibility. And yet, it felt like it was. Because family teaches us that loyalty should override logic, that silence keeps peace, that love means sacrifice. I left her office with my heart pounding. That was the moment I knew I couldn't say yes, but I still didn't want to burn the bridge. I thought naively that there was a way to say no without shattering everything. I was wrong. 3 days later, I invited Natalie out for coffee. Neutral ground, no Grant, just us. She hugged me like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't asked for a life-altering amount of money over tiramisu. We ordered lattes and sat outside under one of those heat lamps that never work. I've been thinking a lot, I began, gently, and I want to be honest with you. She gave a tight smile. Okay? I've reviewed everything. The house, the financials. I just don't think it's a responsible move for me to get involved, especially without transparency." She stiffened. "What do you mean?" "I mean, $200,000 is not a casual ask. And Grant's credit report—" Her face changed instantly. Not shocked, defensive. "You looked into his finances?" "Yes, because you're asking me to tie mine to his." "You don't trust me," she snapped. "I do," I said carefully, "which is why I'm trying to have this conversation the right way." She crossed her arms. "You know what I remember junior year of college? Your car broke down, and I wired you $300 without asking questions. That was a one-time emergency," I said, "not a multi-year luxury mortgage commitment." Her voice dropped. "This house is the start of our family." "I understand, but so is financial stability." She stood up without finishing her drink. "I thought I could count on you." That night, I got a text from Grant. "Natalie told me everything. Hope the spreadsheets keep you warm at night." I said nothing. Silence is a tool people underestimate. But the cold had only begun. That Sunday, I joined them for dinner at our parents' house. I hoped to clear the air, to de-escalate before things spiraled. But it was already too late. Grant barely looked at me. Natalie played nice, but her smiles were thin. Over dessert, Grant leaned back and said loudly, "We might lose our dream home. Shame, really. All because some people don't understand family." My dad raised his eyebrows. "Let's keep dinner peaceful." Natalie jumped in. "Why no one else is trying?" My mom tried to calm her. "Alexis has a right to protect her finances." Natalie shot back. "But we're her family." I stayed calm. I offered other solutions, more affordable homes, first-time buyer options. Grant scoffed. "Charity ideas. You think we want your pity?" "I think you need something realistic," I said. "That house is a fantasy. The numbers don't lie." He stood abruptly, pushing back his chair. Wow, CFO energy really is cold-blooded. They left early. My parents sat in stunned silence. My dad finally said, "Sweetheart, be careful. I think there's more going on than you realize." He was right. Because that night, I got 3 credit check notifications on my phone, then a flagged attempt to access my bank account. Then my work email received a suspicious login request. Someone was trying to break in, and I knew exactly who. The game had changed. This wasn't about family anymore. It was about control. And I was done playing nice. After the attempted logins and the bank alerts, I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I changed all my passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, froze my credit. The digital fences went up. And that's when I knew this wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about control. Grant wasn't used to hearing no, especially not from a woman who wasn't intimidated by him, especially not from someone who saw through his shiny veneer. And Natalie, she wasn't just enabling him, she was starting to sound like him. The next week passed in a blur of awkward silences and side glances. I didn't reach out. Neither did she. I thought maybe things had settled. Then came the ambush. It was a Tuesday morning. I was in the middle of back-to-back interviews for an executive assistant role. I was reviewing a candidate's resume when my receptionist called my extension. "There's a couple here asking to see you. Says it's urgent. Family matter." I stepped into the lobby, and there they were. Grant in a fitted suit that screamed business meeting. Natalie in a sleek cream dress like she was posing for an Instagram reel. Both smiling like this was some kind of surprise party. I felt my stomach twist. "We need to talk," Grant said, holding up a folder. "Privately." My assistant looked confused. I nodded stiffly and led them into an empty conference room. As soon as the door closed, the smiles vanished. Grant tossed the folder on the table. "Here's the paperwork. All you need to do is sign." I didn't sit down. I already gave you my answer. He took a step forward. "And I'm giving you one more chance. This is our home, our future. and you're standing in the way. Natalie didn't speak. She just stared at me, arms crossed, like she wasn't sure which side she was supposed to be on. You still have until Friday, right? I asked calmly. That's what you said. You know damn well the bank needs confirmation today, he snapped. Then the answer's no, I said. Still. His face hardened. You're really going to deny your niece and nephew a safe place to grow up? You don't have kids, I replied, and emotional blackmail doesn't work on me. He slammed a hand down on the table, making Natalie flinch. You think you're so above us because you've got your neat little condo and your spreadsheets?
No, I said voice level. I think I'm not reckless with money.
Then Natalie finally spoke. If you can't do this one thing for me, Alexis, maybe we need to reevaluate our relationship. That landed like a punch. I stared at her. Are you serious? She looked away. Sisters support each other. No, I said quietly. Sisters protect each other. I'm trying to protect you from him, from this mistake. And you're treating me like the enemy. Grant grabbed the folder and stormed out. Natalie followed. I stood there, heart racing, hands shaking, but not from fear. From fury. They had brought their manipulation into my workplace. Tried to corner me, pressure me. They thought they could break me in front of my own team. That was their mistake. That Friday, my parents hosted another family dinner. They were hoping to calm things down, pull everyone back together. I showed up, mostly out of obligation, half hoping Natalie would come to her senses. But it only got worse. Halfway through dessert, Natalie put her fork down and looked directly at me. We might lose the house, she said, because some people don't understand loyalty. My dad sighed. Natalie, we talked about this. No drama tonight. It's not drama, she said. It's reality. Some people are selfish. My mom looked at her gently. Sweetheart, Alexis has every right to make financial decisions that protect her future. Natalie's voice cracked. So we're just okay, letting her throw away everything we've worked for. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're not entitled to my money, I said quietly. That's not how family works. Grant leaned back in his chair. You've made your choice, he said. Enjoy your solo empire. They left early again. My parents were heartbroken. But what broke me wasn't their disappointment. It was the fact that Natalie never once looked ashamed. That same night, I started getting weird notifications again. This time, my email flagged suspicious activity from a known phishing source. I reached out to our cybersecurity lead at work. He ran a quick diagnostic. Someone installed spyware on your personal laptop. He said, keylogger, remote access. I stared at him. Can you trace it? He nodded. It came from a shared IP, tied to a VPN that matches Grant's crypto platform logins. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. He hadn't just tried to guilt me. He was digitally stalking me. I called Linda again, gave her the update. She didn't hesitate. Document everything. Screenshot every login attempt. Forward every flagged alert. We're building a case. A case. It sounded dramatic, but the truth was it had become necessary. Because this wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. It was financial aggression, digital invasion. And if I didn't push back now, there wouldn't be anything left to protect. That weekend, I pulled together every piece of documentation I had: texts, emails, credit alerts, cybersecurity reports. I created a folder labeled Contingency. Inside, I added a letter to my bank, outlining the fraud attempts, a written statement summarizing our conversations, 3 articles about digital coercion and family financial abuse, a list of alternative home buying resources I planned to give Natalie. I wasn't just going to say no anymore. I was going to show her what a real solution looked like. And I was going to do it with every ounce of the professionalism they mocked me for. Because I was done being their target. It was time to start fighting back. It was quiet before it exploded. That Sunday night, I made Jasmine tea and sat cross-legged on my couch, surrounded by documents and highlighters. The windows were cracked open to let the breeze in. I'd spent the past 48 hours assembling what I thought was a peace offering. I didn't want to escalate things, not really. I didn't want to burn the last thread of connection with my sister. So I did what I always do. I found data. I made a plan. I offered options.
I'd created a full packet of resources for Natalie and Grant, listings of affordable homes in up-and-coming neighborhoods, contacts for mortgage brokers who specialized in high-risk profiles, and a guide to first-time homebuyer programs with zero co-signing required. I even included a personal letter explaining my decision and reaffirming my love for Natalie.
It was everything I could offer.
I planned to bring it over later that week.
But life doesn't wait for good intentions. Around 9:30 that night, someone started pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding.
My heart jumped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole.
Grant.
And behind him, Natalie?
He looked furious. She looked cold, distant, arms folded, eyes sharp. "Alexis, open the door. We know you're in there." My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed my phone, quickly texted Tyler, my boyfriend, a police officer, just 3 words. "Grant here. Angry." Then I engaged the security chain and cracked the door open. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "It's over," Grant growled. "We lost the house. The sellers pulled out. You did this."
"I'm sorry," I said, "but I told you." He slammed his shoulder against the door.
The chain snapped. I stumbled backward, heart racing, as he shoved his way in. Natalie followed, not saying a word. "Get out," I said, panic climbing. "You need to leave." He stormed toward me. "You think you're better than us? That your little condo and your financial boundaries make you invincible?" I said no. I replied, voice steady. "That doesn't give you the right to break in." "You destroyed our lives," he said, eyes wild. "That was our shot. You cost us everything." I glanced at the folder on the dining table. "I actually made you a list of—" He followed my gaze, stormed over, picked up the folder, and flipped through the pages. His face twisted. "Cheaper houses, government programs. You think we're charity cases?" "I think you need something sustainable," I said. I tried to help. He threw the folder across the room. Papers scattered like confetti. "This is what you call help." Natalie stood behind him, silent, still. Then Grant turned back to me, stepped in close, too close. "You should have just wired the money," he spat. "I protected my future," I said. "And you should be grateful I didn't report the spyware." That was all I got out before he shoved me. I slammed into the wall. My shoulder cracked loudly, pain exploded through my body. I gasped, clutching my arm. Dislocated. I knew that pain well. "Grant, stop," Natalie finally said, but her voice was weak, detached. He ignored her, grabbed my wrist. "Stop it," I screamed. "You're hurting me." He raised his fist, and then he hit me. Hard. Right across the face. I saw white, felt warm blood fill my mouth. My knees buckled. Another blow. Then another. I collapsed. All I remember is the taste of metal, the feel of hardwood floor, my own blood soaking my sweater. When I looked up, blurry vision, one eye swelling shut, Natalie just stood there. Frozen. Hands to her mouth. Not calling for help. Not trying to stop him. Just watching. "Please," I whispered. "Natalie, please." She took one step forward. "Let's go," she said to Grant. "She's made her choice." He spit on the floor near me and turned. And then they were gone. The door slammed, and I was alone. I don't know how long I laid there, minutes, an hour. My phone was shattered. My shoulders screamed with every breath. My face was swelling rapidly, but something primal kicked in. Survival. I crawled across the floor with one good arm, grabbed my purse, fished out my keys. I had to get out. I had to drive. I had to go to the only place I could think of my parents' house. Every movement felt like being stabbed from the inside. I leaned against walls to stay upright, gripping railings, choking down sobs. My face was so swollen I could barely see out of my right eye, but I made it to my car. And somehow, I drove. One-handed, one-eyed, in shock. The 15-minute drive took me almost 40. I parked crookedly in my parents' driveway, limped to the door, knocked once, twice, then collapsed against it. The last thing I remember was my dad's voice, my mom's scream, and someone calling 911. Everything after that was light and sirens and questions. Ma'am, can you tell us what happened? Who did this to you? Did they break in? Do you know them? Yes, I whispered. Grant Walsh, my brother-in-law, and my sister. She watched. They put me in the ambulance, hooked me up to fluids, stabilized my shoulder, took scans of my skull, confirmed a fractured cheekbone, a broken nose, and possible concussion. But the worst injury was the look on my sister's face as she left me there. Blank, cold, like I was nothing. And in that moment, something inside me broke, but not in the way they expected. I wasn't broken. I was awake. They thought they could leave me there broken, scared, silenced. But they forgot who I am. I don't shatter. I rebuild. And now, it was my turn. I woke up the next morning in the hospital with the taste of blood still in my mouth. My right eye was swollen shut, my shoulder wrapped in a sling, my lips stitched, but all I could think about was the silence. The way Natalie stood there while I begged for help. That wasn't just betrayal. That was abandonment. I couldn't unsee her face, cold and unmoved, and I couldn't forget Grant's voice. You should have just wired the money. That line burned itself into my skull. But if he thought I was going to stay quiet, disappear into shame, and heal in silence, he miscalculated. Because what Grant didn't understand, what Natalie had clearly forgotten, is that I don't fight fair. I fight smart. While the doctors reset my shoulder and managed my pain, the police were already building their case. My parents had given statements. The paramedics had taken photos. And the responding officers had filed for an emergency protective order before sunrise. Tyler arrived mid-morning, still in uniform. He looked at me and froze. His jaw clenched so hard, I thought he might break his own teeth. I'm okay, I whispered. He sat beside me and took my hand gently, as if touching me too firmly might cause more damage. No, you're not, he said, but you will be. I nodded, not because I believed it yet, but because I wanted to. Later that day, a detective from the domestic violence unit arrived with a statement form and a camera. We documented everything: my face, my shoulder, my busted lip. I told her what happened in full detail. When I got to the part about Natalie, how she stood there and did nothing, the detective's pen paused. She was present during the assault, she asked. Yes. She walked in with him, watched the whole thing, never called for help. That changed everything. Not just Grant, but now Natalie was part of the investigation. Accessory, failure to report, possibly obstruction. The next 72 hours were a blur of hospital forms, pain meds, and court paperwork. I was released into my parents' care. They insisted I stay with them until we changed the locks on my apartment and installed a full security system. I agreed. But in my head, I was already organizing. While my body healed, my brain went to work. First, I contacted Linda again, my financial advisor. I gave her full access to everything Grant might have touched: emails, bank alerts, shared files. Then I looped in our cybersecurity lead from work. He ran a forensic sweep on my devices, found the spyware Grant had used, and documented its installation history. It was traced back to a dummy download link Grant had sent weeks ago, disguised as a real estate calculator. Intentional, premeditated. We submitted everything to the detective. Then I got to work on the next phase. I reached out to a civil attorney, not just to sue, but to prepare a case so solid, so indisputable, that the prosecution would have no choice but to bring felony charges: battery, breaking and entering, cyber intrusion, fraud. My attorney was brilliant, a former federal prosecutor with a reputation for tearing financial scammers apart in court. This isn't just assault, she told me. This is financial coercion. This is digital stalking. This is calculated abuse. Exactly. Meanwhile, the police executed a warrant at Grant and Natalie's apartment. They weren't home. For 2 days, no one knew where they were. Then the news broke. Grant had been arrested at a motel 30 miles outside the city. And Natalie, she was with him. She ran with him. Not once did she stop to check if I was even alive. That confirmed everything. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't pressure. She made her choice. The court date for the preliminary hearing was set within the week. In the meantime, I filed for a permanent restraining order against both of them. Grant was charged with aggravated assault, unlawful entry, and cyber harassment. Natalie was under investigation as an accessory. The story leaked to the local press within 48 hours. A well-known influencer couple caught in a family scandal involving digital fraud, assault, and a failed real estate scheme.
And the photos, they didn't hold back.
My bruised face, my stitched lips, my swollen eye. People online reacted fast. TikTok exploded with commentary. Some blamed me. Some defended me. Most were just stunned that it could happen in a family. But I didn't flinch. I didn't hide. Because hiding meant guilt, and I had none. I began sharing my side, carefully, selectively on platforms I trusted, with people I knew would get the message right. Not for clout, for clarity. For every woman who'd ever been pressured to sacrifice her future for someone else's bad choices. By the time Grant's bail hearing rolled around, his crypto mentor brand was crumbling. Sponsors dropped him. His followers vanished. Natalie's wellness partnerships gone. She tried to post a statement, some vague, deflective caption about healing through family fractures. The comment section lit her up. You watched your sister bleed. You stood by and did nothing. This isn't healing. This is hypocrisy. She deleted the post within an hour. Grant's bail was set at $100,000, with conditions: no contact with me, no access to my apartment building, and GPS monitoring. He posted bail through a private lender, a move that only fueled the fire online. Crypto King uses sketchy loan to stay out of jail. The headlines read. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet publicly.
But privately.
I was building my case. I gathered testimony from friends who'd witnessed Grant's manipulations, printed every text, archived every voice message, compiled a timeline that detailed every interaction, dates, locations, behavior patterns. It wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. Natalie sent my parents a letter. Not to apologize, not to take responsibility, but to beg them to convince me to drop the charges. My life is falling apart, she wrote. Grant lost his job. We can't afford a trial. Alexis is overreacting. My dad read it, then tore it in half. My mom cried for the daughter she thought she knew. But I didn't cry. I felt fire. I felt focus. Because I wasn't done. I wasn't even close. The courtroom was freezing. Not physically, just emotionally sterile. Like the air had been stripped of everything human. That's how it felt when I walked in for the preliminary hearing. Tyler walked beside me. My parents sat in the second row. My sling was gone, but the scar above my eyebrow still ached when I furrowed my brow. I had memorized the statement I was about to give, but nothing could have prepared me for seeing them. Grant sat at the defense table in a wrinkled suit, eyes hollow, no smile, no swagger, just a man unraveling. Natalie sat behind him. She didn't look at me. Not once. When the judge listed the charges: aggravated assault, forced entry, cybercrime, Grant didn't flinch, but I did, because hearing them out loud, it made everything real in a different way. They called me to the stand. I took a deep breath, looked the jury straight in the eye, and told them everything. The texts, the pressure, the spyware, the ambush. And then, the part that silenced the whole room. My sister stood there, I said, and watched her husband break my face. People gasped. A few turned to look at Natalie. She sat perfectly still, lips pressed into a flat line. The defense tried to paint it as a one-time loss of control, a family dispute that escalated too fast. But the evidence, medical records, camera footage, digital forensics said otherwise. After 2.5 hours, the judge ruled to proceed to trial. Grant was remanded back into custody pending additional charges. Natalie cried as they cuffed him. But not for me. Not for what he did. For what she was about to lose. The media swarmed the courthouse. I kept my head down. Tyler shielded me from the worst of it. Reporters shouted questions. Online. The story was already trending again. A week later, the brand deals Natalie still had left quietly disappeared. 2 weeks later, her influencer accounts were gone. She tried to pivot, claimed she was taking a break for mental clarity, but no one bought it. The internet never forgets betrayal, especially when it's caught on tape. Back in real life, I began physical therapy. My shoulder was healing. My face was mostly back to normal, but there were still mornings I couldn't look in the mirror for long. The hardest part wasn't the pain. It was the trust. How do you rebuild after that kind of betrayal? How do you ever believe in someone again? That's when I started therapy, real therapy, the kind where you unearth things you didn't even know you buried. My therapist said something that stuck with me. The real trauma isn't just what they did, it's what you believed they wouldn't do. She was right. It wasn't just the punches. It was that Natalie let them land. But with each session, I grew stronger. Not just physically, emotionally. I learned to say things out loud I had only whispered in my head. I learned that setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And most importantly, I learned I didn't need closure from them to move on. I just needed truth. And I finally had it. It's been 8 months since that day in court. Grant took a plea deal. 3 years in state prison. Probation after that. A permanent restraining order. Restitution for medical bills and therapy costs, nearly $72,000. All court-ordered. Natalie was never formally charged. But her life, it changed forever. She lost everything. The followers, the sponsors, the speaking gigs about women's empowerment. It all disappeared the second people saw what she stood for when it actually mattered. Funny how quiet it gets when the filters fade. I haven't spoken to her since, and I don't plan to. Some people ask me if I regret going public. If I regret pressing charges, burning bridges, exposing family. The answer is simple. No, because silence protects no one but the abuser. And if my story kept even one person from falling for someone like Grant or trusting someone like Natalie, then it was worth it. These days, I live differently. I walk slower, breathe deeper, laugh more, but not at everything, only the things that matter. I'm rebuilding from the inside out. Tyler and I still talk. He's patient, kind. He checks in without pressure. Maybe something more will grow from it. Maybe not. Either way, I know now I am enough, even on my own. And if you're listening to this, if you've ever been betrayed by blood or hurt by the person who swore to protect you most, let me say this: you're not alone. You're not crazy. And you're not too broken to fight back. You just need one truth to hold on to. Start there.